Hey guys, it's Sam, and welcome to Caps Lock, a podcast designed to help you live bigger, better, louder, and longer. Before we get started, I just want to thank you guys for listening and for giving this a chance and for coming here in pursuit of your best self. This is a space where we are going to grow together, and my hope is that it helps you go forward confidently, unapologetically, and with purpose. It's time to live your life in Caps Lock. If that mission feels aligned for you, hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode, and let's dive in. As you guys know, I'm a fitness girly. I love a sweaty workout class, weightlifting, and more recently, I've been getting into heated classes. I'm really into heated mat Pilates, hot yoga, that kind of stuff right now. And I have been known to pop into the sauna after a workout or on my days off. I just love to sweat. I love to get it all out. And over the past couple months, there has been a conversation circulating that is freaking me out a little bit. And that conversation is about whether our workout clothes are making us infertile, which is like not casual at all. I used to be the queen of searching my symptoms on the internet and going down a rabbit hole of terminal illnesses that I definitely didn't have, but would then lie awake worrying about for weeks. As I reinforced that habit time and time again, the line started to blur between when I should or shouldn't take a symptom seriously. I mean, even if your symptoms match up with a diagnosis on the internet, everyone experiences health issues differently. So there's no way to know if you've got the same thing as that girl on TikTok. But now I know that knowledge is power, so I'd rather see a doctor right away to either soothe my unfounded concerns or get the care I need. And that is where ZocDoc comes in. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors and click to instantly book an appointment. I've used ZocDoc to find all my medical doctors, and it has been a total game changer because I used to have so much trouble finding the overlap between who's a good fit for me, who takes my insurance, and who's available to see me. So take back the power, stop putting off those doctor's appointments, and go to ZocDoc.com/capslock to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/capslock. ZocDoc.com/capslock. There's this guy whose videos pop up on Instagram a lot for me. His handle is @hormone-specialist. At the time of recording, he has about 1 million followers. And in April 2025, so just about a month and a half ago, he shared this video that has 1.4 million views so far about dogs wearing polyester pants. And I know that sounds insane, so we're going to break it down. It's kind of funny to picture, but the actual information he conveys in the video is extremely distressing, so I'm just going to share the gist of it with you. Basically, this guy talks about a 2008 study, which conveniently he didn't link in his post, so I had to go digging, where researchers put female dogs in pants made of all different materials for an entire year to see if it affected their fertility. Some dogs wore 100% polyester pants. Some dogs wore 50-50 like poly cotton blends. Some wore 100% cotton. Some wore 100% wool. And then others wore nothing as like a control group so they could measure the data against normal dogs who don't wear pants. According to this hormone specialist man, in the 100% polyester group of dogs, 75% of them couldn't get pregnant after 1 year of wearing the pants, even with artificial insemination, and their progesterone levels dropped dramatically. But the dogs wearing 100% cotton or 100% wool pants had a 100% success rate in conception. So the question on the tip of our tongues is why? And supposedly, it is not actually because of microplastics being absorbed into the skin, which is what a lot of people's first assumption is. That was my first assumption, for the record. As it turns out, the pants made of 100% polyester actually created a measurable electrostatic field around the reproductive organs of the dogs wearing them. The electrostatic field was twice as high in the 100% polyester pants as the 50-50 blend. And the dogs wearing cotton and wool pants didn't have an electrostatic field around their reproductive organs at all. So based on the data, like I'm synthesizing here, obviously this study is really long and it's linked in the show notes, as with all of my research. And everything comes from super reputable sources. It's like PubMed, Google Scholar. We're talking like medical journals, ladies. And like I said, I'm synthesizing here, but it is believed that polyester is actually the culprit here, since the strength and size of the electrostatic field seems to be directly correlated to the amount of polyester. And the verdict is that the electrostatic field affected the dog's fertility by interfering with hormone signaling. In the comments on Mr. Hormone Specialist's video, he answered a question from a follower asking, okay, what about male dogs? And I'm so glad this random follower asked that question, because as it turns out, it might actually be worse. Apparently, there was a different study done on male dogs, but it's essentially the same. Like, all the factors are there. And this study was actually conducted over 2 years, not one, and the same exact thing happened. Dogs in pants made of synthetic fiber saw their sperm counts drop significantly. But, and this is super important, they also studied the dogs after removing the pants to see if the effects were reversible. And their sperm counts actually returned to normal 5 to 6 months after taking the pants off. Now, the hormone specialist guy didn't mention in his original video whether the female dog's fertility returned to normal after removing the pants, but we will talk about that in a sec. Obviously, since the guy didn't link these studies, I had to see if they were real. That's just who I am as a person. And if they were real, I needed to know whether he was telling the whole story. Because to his point that he made in the video, dogs are mammals, we are mammals. So if these synthetic fabrics are making other mammals infertile, it's worth considering whether these fabrics might be doing the same to us. And I do want to point out here that these dogs wore the pants 24/7 with no breaks. And you might think you are living a completely different life because you're not wearing workout clothes 24/7. However, I urge you to consider that your underwear might have or like some in it, or be made entirely of polyester, spandex, nylon, elastane, or some other synthetic material. And most of us are wearing underwear most of the time. First things first, the dog studies are in fact real, and the hormone specialist guy actually did a pretty good job explaining them. Something to note that he did not include in his content is that out of the 9 male dogs who wore polyester pants for that study, and you might remember that he said after removing the pants, the fertility damage was reversed. But out of the 9 dogs who did wear polyester pants for the study, 2 of them actually did not have improved fertility after removing the pants. And that is roughly 22%. Now, obviously, it's a small sample size, like we're talking about 9 dogs. So who knows how that data would extrapolate in a larger group, let alone a group of humans instead of a group of dogs. But I do think it's worth noting that out of those 9 dogs, 2 of them were not able to conceive after removing the pants, while these other 7 of them, their fertility returned to normal. So I think that's worth thinking about. Another thing to know about these studies, and I said we would come back to it, is that the female dog's infertility was also reversed after removing the pants, and the female polyester pant dogs successfully conceived about 5 months after removing them. So all the female dogs returned to normal and were able to conceive, not all the male dogs. And also important to note that the way the male dogs were affected was primarily lower sperm counts, worse sperm quality, and tissue degeneration in the testes. And the way female dogs were affected was primarily lower progesterone levels and the inability to ovulate. So literally the entire reproductive process. Not great. In addition to this super fun dog content, I have been seeing some articles and TikToks and stuff like that circulating a lot about how our workout clothes and bathing suits and underwear are all made of microplastics or treated with synthetic chemicals or both, and how once they're heated up, like, for example, if you wear them for exercise and you like get hot in them, or you wear them in the sauna, or for example, in like a bathing suit and you lay out in the sun, once they're heated up, they shed endocrine disruptors, or, in other words, they shed the microplastics, and the microplastics are endocrine disruptors that also affect our fertility. And I, for one, and I know this isn't the case for everybody, but I wear underwear almost all of the time. And if I'm not wearing underwear, it's most often because I'm wearing another clothing item like a bathing suit or workout leggings or something of the sort that is also made of synthetic textiles. And I lounge in leggings, I work out in leggings, I sauna in bathing suits. So these clothing items get hot. And honestly, I'm a little bit concerned about all these things the more I hear about them online. I'm confident that many of you are seeing this same discussion play out through various channels. And since all of us are super health conscious, we care about the implications of this information. So after being bombarded with it, particularly when we have little to no context, few if any citations, and also questionable sources, we are left to ask ourselves, number one, do synthetic fabrics impact our fertility? 2, if so, how do they affect us and our fertility? 3, is it worse when these fabrics get hot, whether by way of external temperature like hot weather or sauna, or internal body temperature from exercising? And 4, do we need to stop wearing clothes containing synthetic materials? Today, my plan is to answer those questions best I can. It's not a super long episode because unfortunately this topic is kind of new and trendy, which means there's not a ton of valid, peer-reviewed, controlled research on the matter. But we are going to talk about it, and I'm going to speak to both biological men's and biological women's fertility as they relate to these synthetic materials. So stay with me. My first question is, do synthetic fabrics impact our fertility? I found a study very similar to the dog study that was done on adult male humans. Why are we even talking about the dog study if we have this other study? It's not like it was more recent. It's actually a little bit older. It was conducted in 1992 on 14 healthy men between the ages of 32 and 47 years old. All 14 of these men wore a polyester sling on their scrota, which contained the testicles, consecutively for 12 months straight. After an average of 139 days, all 14 of these men had no sperm left in their semen. Based on the study, this seems to be related to 2 factors. Number 1, the same electrostatic field from the dog polyester pants, and 2, the elevated testicular temperature. Synthetic materials are a lot less breathable than natural fibers like cotton or bamboo, so they trap heat, and elevated temperatures negatively impact sperm production. Fun fact, the reason the testicles are located outside of the body is because your basal body temperature is actually too hot for the testicles to do their job. So they're located outside of the body to keep them a couple of degrees cooler than your internal body temperature. If this study doesn't terrify you, I'm so sad to break it to you that it should. In addition to their non-existent sperm counts, the men also had significantly reduced testicular volume, and it was determined that the hormone-disrupting effects of these polyester slings were localized to the reproductive organs. So I found that interesting. Basically, that means that only the testicles and reproductive health were impacted, not really the rest of the body. However, hormone signaling at large can impact the rest of the body. So even if the damage is localized, if your hormones are going to other places, sending messages to other parts of your body, your whole system can be totally thrown off by this. After these polyester slings were removed from the adult human men, the participants were continuously observed to see if the effects could be reversed, just like in the dog study. And the good news is that all 14 men's sperm counts returned to normal. However, remember how it took 139 days for their sperm counts to nosedive to zero? Well, it took an average of 156 days to return to normal. In other words, it took 12.2% longer for their sperm counts to get back to normal than it did for them to hit zero in the first place. Now, I do want to share some disclaimers. Obviously, these studies are all a bit extreme, right? The garments worn by subjects are 100% polyester, and they are worn continuously with no breaks in both the dog and the human studies. So the results might be a bit extreme, a bit severe, dramatic, whatever you want to call it. But as of 2023, it was estimated that 70 to 75% of global textile fiber production consisted of synthetic materials such as polyester, nylon, spandex. And that is a 10 to 15% increase from 2017, suggesting that the percentage of clothing that includes synthetic materials or is made entirely of synthetic materials continues to grow at a rapid pace. When we start talking about workout clothes, the percentage of items made partly or entirely of synthetic materials like the polyester, nylon, spandex, elastane jumps to 90 to 95%. And for swimwear, it's estimated to be at least 60%. For underwear, it's estimated to be 60 to 70%. So there is an incredibly high chance that at this very moment, you are wearing something made at least partially out of plastic. And it seems to be contributing to growing infertility rates. Before we continue the discussion specifically around these synthetics and infertility, I also want to note that I read a particularly disturbing CNN article that I'll be referencing throughout the remainder of the episode that said the Center for Environmental Health also found high levels of BPA in athletic wear using synthetic materials from leading brands like Nike, Athleta, Patagonia, The North Face, among other brands, and that high BPA exposure is linked to conditions including infertility, brain and behavior disorders, breast cancer, endometriosis, PCOS, and acne, among others. And besides BPA, there are actually way more messed up chemicals in these synthetics, and I'm actually going to read this next excerpt directly from the article because I felt like it was really clear and concise, and it actually just doesn't need synthesis. Like, it is just good, solid, dense information. So here's the excerpt. The article reads, sidebar for a sec, it's Mother's Day season, which personally I celebrate all year round because moms deserve way more than just a day. And I wanted to take a minute today to thank all the moms out there for everything they do for us, especially my mom, because there is no me without you. Function Health just released a book called Long Live Moms as a reminder that moms need to take care of themselves too. I really loved this excerpt from the book, so I'm just going to read you a quick piece of it. Moms know sacrifice, love stitched tight. They toil, the grit, the sleepless nights. They hold the world yet stand unseen, the quiet force in between. The keepers of the scraped up knees, the magic hands that calm the seas. But wise are moms who pause, who see that caring starts with caring for me. A body strong, a breath drawn deep, a heart that beats, a soul to keep. The years move fast, yet love remains, a bond unbroken, thread through veins. So long live the ones who teach us how to love ourselves, to live well now. Long live the hearts, the wisdom, the care. Long live moms everywhere. If you are a mom or have a mother figure in your life, I'm sure this poem resonates. I feel like it's such a powerful reflection of the sacrifices a mother makes and the love and joy they bring into the world. I literally had to record this twice because I got choked up reading it the first time. If you don't know Function Health, it's an all-in-one health platform that helps you take control of your health through data. Instead of guessing what's happening inside your body, Function helps you know for sure, providing access to 100+ advanced lab tests. These tests include insights into thyroid function, hormones, liver health, heart health, autoimmunity, kidney function, nutrient levels, heavy metal toxicity, immune system, electrolytes, and more. With Function, your first set of tests helps establish a baseline of your health, giving you a starting point to compare future tests against. This makes it easy to spot changes, even subtle ones, and address them proactively. For all my moms out there, Function Health is the best way to care for you so you can continue to care for them. Get Function Health's Long Live Moms book for free at functionhealth.com/capslock and learn more about how Function Health can help you take better care of you. That's functionhealth.com/capslock. BPA is not the only endocrine disrupting chemical found in fashion. There's also its close cousins, bisphenol S and F, which are increasingly used to replace BPA, plus lead, mercury, and arsenic, which can be used in the dyeing process, APEOs, which are surfactants, which I've never heard of, but they're often used in the scouring, dyeing, and printing of fabrics, PFAs, a class of chemicals that are so persistent they're known as, quote, forever chemicals, and are often used in clothing for water and stain resistance, and phthalates, which are used to make bendy, pliable vinyl for things like pleather skirts, otherwise known often as vegan leather, which is like the rebrand of the century, and clear shoe straps. Some fast fashion brands like Zaful, Shein, and AliExpress were also studied, and some items from those sites were found to have clothing containing amounts of lead that exceeded Canada's legal limits for lead in clothing by almost 20 times. I want you to let that one sink in. And these things, lead, phthalates, BPA, etc., these are carcinogens or endocrine disruptors or both. So these are some of the reasons why our polyester, our nylon, our spandex, elastane, and other synthetic blend clothes are causing infertility and other health issues. What else is interesting about all this is that unlike in traditional toxicology, where the smaller the dose, the less harm. For example, think of alcohol, right? Like the less you drink, the better. The more you drink, the worse. In endocrine disruptors, the dose actually doesn't matter quite as much. According to this same CNN article, most researchers agree that there is no safe dose of endocrine disruptors, quoting a professor from UMass Amherst saying, quote, even small changes in the hormone level can have drastic changes in the biological effect. Now, that might be true. There is no safe amount. But like I said, like with alcohol, the less the better. And I'm going to go ahead and say it's probably the same case here, right? It's going to be very difficult for us to eliminate entirely, but the less exposure you have, the less likely you are to have lasting, permanent, terrible, damaging effects. Dr. Shanna H. Swan, an environmental and reproductive epidemiologist who has spent more than 20 years studying the effects of hormone-disrupting chemicals on our health, she wrote a book about how the modern world affects adult reproductive health, and she shares that, quote, an amount of an endocrine-disrupting chemical in a ratio as small as a single drop in an Olympic-sized swimming pool can actually cross the placenta and measurably affect an embryo, and those changes can be permanent. And you can reasonably be exposed to that dose while wearing clothes containing these substances. What's even worse is that if you actually do manage to have kids, despite all these roadblocks in just your clothes, and don't forget we also have beauty products, chemicals in our food, chemicals and pollutants in the air, like it's hard to get away from. So if you do manage to have kids, despite all these roadblocks just in your clothes, there's evidence that damage caused by endocrine disruptors can be passed from either or both parents onto their children, which increases the children's risk of reproductive abnormalities and increases the risk of other health issues while we're at it. Now, of course, lots and lots of people manage to have babies despite wearing clothes that include synthetic materials like the ones we're talking about in this episode. So this moment right here that I'm about to say is a big shut the fuck up to all the keyboard warriors who are going to tell me about their personal reproductive success despite wearing workout leggings, as if that invalidates the experience of everyone who suffers at the hands of synthetic clothing exposure. So I reiterate, shut the fuck up. This is a real risk for real people. And if that isn't you, congratulations. I'm so happy for you. But please keep it moving and don't sit here and tell me like, you don't have to worry about this. I had 18 children despite wearing leggings. It's actually irresponsible to have 18 children. And your personal positive experience does not invalidate the struggles of people everywhere. So now that we're past that, sorry, I just get so heated because a lot of times I'll post a social clip about something that is a real risk and you'll get like 10 to 20 people being like, oh, well, I smoked cigarettes every day for my entire life and my babies turned out fine. First of all, your kids are probably losers. You shouldn't smoke cigarettes while you have babies. And second of all, cool. I'm really happy for you that they came out healthy, but you cannot sit here and tell all these people it's fine to smoke cigarettes while you have babies because I had one good anomaly experience. It's so disrespectful. It's so invalidating. And it's honestly not even like you're the exception to the rule. You know what I mean? Okay. According to Our World in Data, which is a nonprofit in partnership with Oxford and Y Combinator, so we trust them, U.S. fertility rates actually increased pretty dramatically between 1933 and 1959, going from an average of 2.01 live births per woman in 1933 up to 3.75 in 1959. However, the data goes through 2023. That's like when the conclusive research ends as of now. And between 1959, so the end of that, and 2023, fertility rates in the U.S. have decreased dramatically with almost zero recovery. And at the end of the recorded data in 2023, the fertility rate was at its absolute lowest at only 1.62 live births per woman. So it went from 2.01 all the way up to 3.75 and then plummeted below the original data set to 1.62. And to be clear, this data doesn't mean that every woman is having 1 or 2 or 3.75 kids. The data summarizes the total number of births a woman would have if she experienced the birth rates seen in women of each age group in one particular year across her childbearing years. So basically, I tell you this data just to show you that the fertility rate nearly doubled from 1933 to 1959 and then nosedived by almost 57%, so more than half. And again, there are many factors at play here, but I also want to be clear that the 50s and 60s are when we saw the largest increases in plastics and synthetic materials being used in clothing, and that has only increased since then. So as the fertility chart is trending downwards, starting when America began incorporating plastic into clothing, the synthetic clothing charts are trending upwards. Food for thought. Also, a lot of people agree that clothing is one of the major contributors to microplastic pollution in the world because every time you wash your clothes, they shed a shit ton of plastics out into the water, and then the water goes into like the big old water system of our planet, and now we're just covered in plastic all the time. Dr. Swan, who I referenced earlier, she's responsible for some of the data I mentioned a few minutes ago. She also says that due to a combination / buildup of endocrine disruptors from synthetic clothing materials and also like chemical treatments on those clothes, chemicals in our skincare and household products and furniture and bad stuff in our food and just stuff like that. I'm going to read you now like 6 fertility related data points that are all related to all the chemical exposure we have in our lives, right? Number 1, sperm counts plummeted by 59% between 1973 and 2011. Number 2, the quality of sperm also nosedived, with much fewer sperm being strong and capable enough to actually carry out fertilization. So even if the sperm existed, they were shitty. Number 3, the DNA the sperm carried was significantly damaged. Number 4, testosterone levels have been dropping 1% per year since 1982. So let's do the math on that. Cool. So since 1982's testosterone levels have dropped 43%. I'm looking into the camera now. Are you literally kidding me? Number 5, almost a quarter of men experiencing erectile dysfunction are under the age of 40, so in their peak reproductive years. And miscarriages have increased 1% per year for the last 20 years. 20%. And this is a small sidebar, and I think we can do a whole separate episode on this topic, which would be how the man's health affects a pregnancy, fetal development, and the overall health of the child. Men's health dramatically influences the health and viability of a pregnancy. So miscarriages are actually frequently attributed to abnormal sperm. Now, obviously, the woman's health is super important, but you would be shocked at the number of miscarriages that are related exclusively to the men's health. So More on that another time, but just a bit of info to dispel some infertility shame that we always just put on the women in heterosexual relationships. For what it's worth, it seems like for the purposes of this particular topic, that is synthetic fabric and clothing like athletic wear, bathing suits, etc., that it affects men more and worse than it affects women. Both sexes seem to be impacted, just, men even more so. So that's that on that. Now, back to my existential questions. They're actually not really existential, but the vibe is kind of existential in the room right now. Is the adverse impact of synthetic clothing on human fertility worse when these fabrics get hot, whether by way of external temperature like saunas, sun, hot weather, or internal body temperature from exercising? I searched massive medical journal databases to find peer-reviewed research on this. I looked for meta-analyses. To be honest, there isn't a ton. I had trouble even finding limited, adjacent, related, relevant information. Lots of sauna websites and regular health conscious people say that, similar to when you microwave a plastic dish and it releases chemicals into your food. If you go into a sauna in clothing that contains all the things we've been saying, polyester, nylon, elastane, spandex, PVC, whatever else, it will release chemicals and microplastics into the air and onto your body as it heats up. Similarly, as your body heats up during a workout, it can have the same effect, though perhaps in a slightly less, severe amount because the temperature is not 200 degrees Fahrenheit the way it is in a sauna. From a logical standpoint, this all makes sense to me, but I do return to the point made earlier that there's really no safe dose of endocrine disruptors. So I'm not sure how much you're saving yourself by just wearing the polyester to hang out in, but not to sauna in, That said, it is recommended to wear 100% cotton or bamboo or some other natural fiber materials in the sauna, or better yet, to go naked. So I will probably start doing that, and I hope to see a lot more research come out on this particular topic in the coming years, since it is such a hot, buzzy, trendy conversation right now, and the girls need to see some data, All of this brings us to our last question, which is really the most important one of them all, and that is, do we need to stop wearing clothes containing synthetic materials, or is it kind of a whole lot of hubbub about nothing? Is this not our biggest fish to fry? Here's what I think. At the end of the day, in our world, we are surrounded by chemicals and carcinogens and endocrine disruptors all the time. I feel like we can't escape them, right? They're in your makeup, in your food, in your clothes, in your soap, in your toothpaste, in the air. And while there's no safe amount of endocrine disruptor or carcinogen, and I think I've said that about 8 million times during the making of this episode, and honestly of this show at large, I think my take on it is it's our job to decide what we're going to do versus what we're not going to do based on our lifestyles and preferences. Realistically, most of us are not going to stop wearing spandex forever. And at this point, we're all pretty far gone, right? I think, the bit is that the average adult human in the United States has the equivalent of 1 plastic spoon worth of microplastics in their brain alone. And while any amount of it is bad, I do believe that the fewer microplastics and carcinogens and endocrine disruptors you subject yourself to, the better off you are, right? Even if 1 tiny microscopic piece of microplastic is in your body and that does some small bit of irreversible damage, then the less you expose yourself to it, the lower your chance of having irreversible damage is, right? I drink out of glass cups and bottles. I don't drink alcohol. I'll probably go in the sauna naked or in 100% cotton or bamboo clothing from now on. I don't get my nails done. I don't eat processed meat. But I also choose to live in New York City, which is probably the most polluted place in America. I eat the random Chinese takeout. I love energy drinks more than I love oxygen. I play golf as much as possible because I love it, despite all of the chemicals they spray everywhere to maintain the grounds. So I think my personal journey is going to be, I hold on to my favorite workout sets for now, and I get rid of the ones I'm not as attached to. maybe all my future athletic wear purchases are better researched and come from companies that are committed to using 90-something% natural textiles if possible. And definitely while I'm trying to get pregnant somewhere down the line, I will probably detox my life and stop hitting the sauna, particularly in workout clothes, to give myself the best chance possible of conceiving healthy babies as easily and as naturally as possible. All we can do is our best, you guys. And for me, my best is empowering myself and empowering you guys with the knowledge and tools and resources to live your best life. So I hope that today you learned something. I hope it inspires you to take whatever action is best for you in this moment, and that you stick around to continue learning how to live your life in caps lock. And I think this conversation is really interesting, particularly leading into next week's episode, which is a fabulous and brilliant woman named Dr. Jessica Shepard. She came to me through P-Volve, which is a workout that I love in New York City. So they also have on-demand virtual workouts. So if you're interested, definitely check it out. It's a low-impact workout, and their kind of shtick is they're focused on strengthening the pelvic floor in your core, because the pelvic floor is the ground of your core. And Dr. Shepard was actually just on the Mel Robbins podcast. So no big deal. Caps lock is a pretty big shit over here. So that is amazing, and she's brilliant and cool. So listen next week. And I think this conversation is a perfect segue into that. And a lot of us are in this stage of our lives where we're kind of in our late 20s, early to mid 30s. We're thinking about maybe having kids someday or freezing our eggs. We're checking our fertility if that's our journey. And so I think there's a lot to learn here that we are not taught as women. We are grossly underserved and undereducated on these topics. And it's really important to me that we go out and seek that information. And hopefully this podcast is one of the ways that you are seeking that information, because we do our best to really get the most unbiased, the most peer-reviewed, the most valid and substantial information that we possibly can. We're not on Wikipedia. We're not on Reddit. We are in the thick of these medical journals and a lot of really, really important research that is conducted by people who make it their life's work to give us this information. So that's what we're doing. We're just doing our best, girlies. Thank you again from the bottom of my heart for giving Caps Lock a chance. If you liked this episode, please stick around for more, because we have some really interesting topics on the docket. Again, like I said, Dr. Jessica Shepard next week. We also are going to talk about friend breakups, manifestation, nervous system regulation, hair loss, and so much more in the coming weeks and months. Some will be solo episodes, and some will feature scientists, founders, experts, doctors, and other very cool, smart people. If there is a topic you want to hear about on Caps Lock, send me a message. That's how I get a lot of the topics we talk about on the show. And lastly, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Life in Caps Lock. Hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Leave me a rating or review. I cannot emphasize how important this is to podcasters. And tune in next Sunday at 8 a.m. for another episode of Caps Lock. Okay. Love you guys. Talk soon.